Hi, this is Whitney and Orrin with the Birth, Breath, and Beyond Ministry, and we are starting something new today. This is something that we were thinking about starting at a time when we could not have the kiddos with us, and we realized that that's very difficult. So you're just going to be joining part of our journey today. Currently, we're in the van and we're driving toward the river and we're going to go on a walk. Maybe there's going to be some walking around and getting wet feet and who knows, but it'll be a fun little adventure for us. So that if you're hearing different noises as we go on our journey, that's why. And yeah, we want to talk a little bit first about the intentions, just very briefly, the intentions that we have of starting this podcast. So if you'd like to go first, Oren.
Yeah, so the intention of the podcast from me is to help increase the vibrational growth of people's mindset. So this is going to be a growing process. The intention is to talk about my different thoughts, Whitney's different thoughts, and our intention isn't to tell you how to have a better life, but what has increased our lives and what's helped us, and it could potentially help you, if at the very least, food for thought to help adjust your life to be more vibrational, better and happier.
And the only thing I have to add is I also have an intention for our descendants. I'm not always the greatest at journaling and things like that. And it's like I like to have almost like a record of our descendants being able to see our journey through life and see how we progressed and how we became who we are today and how we continue to grow afterward. So that's a lot of what this is about, is growth. And so as an example, today our talk is going to be on money. And even as we were preparing for this, we came across many philosophical books about money that we're very interested in looking at and diving into further. So I can see pretty much every topic we're going to be discussing. I'm sure that there's going to be more that's added on as we continue our journey. So yeah, so that's my little addition to the intentions. And so money. Um, we're getting close to the new year. Actually, today is the winter solstice. I don't know if you knew that, Orin. Today's winter solstice. So for many people, that is the new year. And and that's because from this point on, we're going to increase the amount of light every single day. And leading up to this point, it was getting darker every day. So anyways, many people consider this to be the new year. But even for January 1st New Year people, yeah, it's a time of year where we start discussing, like, unraveling what is it that I'm trying to get rid of that I no longer want to bring with me into the future. What is it that I definitely want to do different? What new habits do I want to work on? Things like that. So, with this energy, we were thinking of the idea of money because especially in what we call like new age or spirituality, many times people work on mantras as an example. And the mantra is supposed to be something that you can repeat over and over and over again. And it helps you to build a better relationship with whatever the concept is. So there's many people in this new age spirituality that have these mantras about money, and we just discussing before this, it's I don't know, we're pondering on how maybe some of this new age stuff isn't as healthy as people think it is. And so we wanted to discuss that. We wanted to discuss history. We wanted to discuss a little bit of philosophy of money, and yeah, just kind of and we wanted, like, adding in this with the new year, it's like we wanted this to be an example of how you can think about your goals maybe in a slightly different way than just the straightforward. So anyways, let me pull up those lyrics just to get us started. There's a song that I found recently that I actually really like the song, and it feels like a super high vibrational song to me. And like it's one that I like listening to, but there's a couple of the lyrics that, yeah, make you stop and ponder just a little bit. So, okay, let me find it. The song is called The Universe Reflects Who You Are Now. And the specific lyrics say, you don't get wealthy by waiting to feel worthy. You become worthy, and then the wealth confirms it. So at the first glance, it's like, okay, that does feel like a higher vibration than many where it's just debt and living paycheck to paycheck. It's like, okay, you don't get worthy by you don't get wealthy by waiting to feel worthy. You become worthy, and then the wealth confirms it. But then we started talking, and it's like this goes a lot deeper. So, anyways, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. So if you have money, affirm affirmations. The hard part is how the opposite becomes true. When money doesn't come your way, it's unconfirming your affirmations and it hints that you're going in the wrong direction. And that doesn't have to be true. When you're first starting off in a craft, let's say I'm personally trying to get into blacksmithing. I just started. I am not very good. So if I made a bunch of stuff, tried to sell it right now, it would be really hard to sell because it's not great quality. I wouldn't have a lot of stuff. It takes me a really long time to make anything. And so when I did sell something, it wouldn't be necessarily worth the time and effort I put into it. However, that doesn't mean that isn't the right path for me, or that doesn't make me happy, or it doesn't increase my vibrations. All it means is that I need to put more effort, more time into it until I get better, and then the money will come later. And so the problem with putting emphasis on money on a tool is that tools aren't useful until you're good at using them. And so there's a real risk at hoping that whatever you're doing is going to be immediately, oh, this is perfect. My life immediately changed around and everything's amazing. And it took so little effort because everything's just falling into place perfectly. I think that's another fallacy that today's age has brought with us with technology, is that a lot of things are really easy to do these days.
So let's dive a little bit more into money as a tool instead of money as a means or a measure.
The example I was going to bring to the table, which I'm curious on what you think about it,
Okay.
is nuclear fission.
Okay.
And so nuclear fission is when they take an atom and they split it apart. It generates a massive amount of energy. And this happens I'm sure it happens in lots of different locations. We're going to talk about two different applications on how this happens. On one side of the coin are nukes, nuclear bombs, the thing that we dropped on Japan twice. Horrific weapon, right? Causes massive damage, massive radiation, generational damage. It's really bad. It is a high, a weapon of mass destruction, very high tier weapon, low vibration, right? Weapons are generally seen as low vibrations. And so nuclear fission, when looked at very narrowly in the sense of, oh, it creates nuclear bombs, it must be a low vibrational method, which is not true. Another thing that does nuclear fission are nuclear power plants. They do it in a controlled, safe environment, and then you can generate a lot of energy in an extremely healthy way, a lot more healthier than coal, especially for the earth. So we have that harmonization. It can go bad, like Chernobyl. However, Chernobyl has problems like cutting corners, no safety, stuff like that. So it wasn't the problem with the method, it was a problem with how they were using it. They were more using it like a weapon opposed to a power source. So when these tools are used properly, they can be really good. And when they're used improperly or for not vibrationally high reasons like weapons, they could feel very low. That's the point I was making in comparison to Chernobyl is nuclear fission, nuclear power plants have a lot of negative vibrational energy attached to it because of things like Chernobyl and nuclear bombs. They're very they're very hard to get past. But the tool in itself, just like money, shouldn't be applied with, oh, the tool is evil, the tool is bad. It's always about the misuse of a tool or how a tool is being applied to the world. And there was a book or something.
So the analogy that you're thinking of, this is actually from an email. I'm on the email list for the Spirit Science YouTube channel. And I really enjoy this channel. And it's been interesting how different it's been over the years. It's like it goes through phases where some of the phases I connect with and learn so much from. And other phases, it's like you can tell that he's just like a baby at it and he's just trying on ideas. And so it's kind of fun because he's in a way vulnerable in like letting us see his growth as he goes through his journey. But he sent out an email on November 13th, 2025. And the title to this email is the mind blown emoji. God is money? Question mark, exclamation mark. And then he goes on to talk about how everything is energy, thoughts, emotion, light, and then he starts adding in like math, like where if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. And so then he uses that logic to then say, okay, so God is energy, energy is light, light is love, love is money. Therefore, God is money. And so I think this is the analogy that you're asking about.
That was the analogy I was asking about. So I think that's another fallacy that we see here. Putting too much importance on money is just there's so you could easily see the steps he took, right? Money helps the world go around, right? You can argue that money is the thing that allows us to grow in a vibrational direction or how we advance civilization and technologies, which it does help. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money an individual has, it's about what he does with it, right? What you imply when you say things like money is God is that if you don't have money, God doesn't love you. And I don't think that's the message anyone's trying to send.
And I would add in too, there's this picture that is just stuck in my mind from a history class where during the Great Depression, I think in Germany, but I'm not that confident on that. But I think it was in Germany that people were just using their money as wallpaper because literally it was so becoming so worthless. Like they had to get paid every single day because if they waited for 2 weeks for their payday, the amount of money that they did make was already absolutely worthless. So like in this case, if God was money, then it's like, is God trying to punish those people for some reason? And it's like that's a fallacy. Like I don't think so.
Yeah, and so money, this goes back into how money is just a tool, right? It's a useful tool, but we can't imply or perceive that money has intelligence or money has a will or money does anything other than what the person using that money is trying to do.
Do you feel like people use money wisely?
No.
So like money as a tool, it's not used wisely currently.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would the wisdom of money be?
The wisdom of money would be the knowledge on how to use the tool properly. So to me, what that means is understanding how much money you have, being able to do things like save money for the future. A lot of people, when they hit hard times, don't have any money to fall back on. And that, a lot of people like to say that, oh, it must be nice to come from a family that has money to fall back on. But they also put zero effort into creating something that they can fall back on. They spend all of the money they have immediately, as soon as they can, because they're getting another one in 2 weeks, right? They're getting a paycheck in 2 weeks. And that's not wisdom. Just like how if I was growing my own food and I ate it all now instead of saving some for winter, I would be equally unwise because you have to plan for your future. People don't do that these days because life is very easy. You don't necessarily have to. No one's dying by the thousands when winter comes because at the end of the day, most people can stay alive, even though it just makes their life a little bit harder.
Okay, so my next question. If your descendants were wise enough to save up for the winter, are they wise with money yet?
No, they're two different tools. Just because I can use a hand hammer doesn't mean I can use a power
So what is wisdom with money?
hammer. So that depends on your goal. Wisdom is about helping your path move forward. So my version of wisdom of money would look different than someone else's. For example, I don't put a lot of value in money. So I don't really want a whole lot of it. I don't really need a whole lot of it. I prefer to have enough money to get all the things I want done and a little bit in case I fall on hard times. But then anything beyond that to me is unwise to hold on to. And that's not going to be the same for everybody because everyone has different levels of wisdom. For us, if we had $1 million just sitting in the bank, right? The government came out tomorrow and went, Merry Christmas, everyone gets $1 million, right? And so if that happened, what would we do with the money is how you would be able to determine if someone was wise or not. And there's going to be a wide range of things you could do. For us, wisdom would look like buying 500 acres, starting a family compound. So we would always have a place to go back to with our family. Like, we'll raise the kids here. The kids will go out, explore the world, come back to the family compound when they're ready to raise their own kids. That would be financially wise for us. However, if we look at someone like your parents, right? They're a lot older. They're not having any more kids. And they got that same $1 million from the government because everyone did. If they went and bought 500 acres, you could argue pretty strong that that would be not wise. Well, they're old. They're not going to be able to work that land. It's going to stay, you know, unused for a lot of the time, or they're going to hurt themselves trying to get the land up to that level, you know? And so, and or maybe that's exactly what they want. They want something like 30 acres to just kind of live off of and grow things at a leisurely pace, you know? The point when we draw the line between wise and unwise should probably be if you're causing self-harm. And so let's say someone gets the $1 million and they're like, man, I don't know what I'd do with this $1 million. I never thought I'd have $1 million. Well, step one is I'm going to buy my dream car, right? Dream car cost $500,000. Well, that's fine. I spent half of all the money I got, but I got this dream car. So that's sweet. Well, now he's got to get insurance for that dream car. He's 18, so, and male. And it's going to spike up his insurance. And he's like, well, I still got $500,000, so, you know, it'll be okay. And he goes, you know what, I got $500,000. I can easily, you know, he does a little bit of math, does a little bit of calculations. He goes, I can live off of $500,000 for the next year and be fine. So I'm going to quit the job that I dislike. I'm going to go on a small vacation. You know, I'm not going to be spending my money like crazy. I'll just go a small vacation and then I'll eventually start looking for a job, right? He has a smart plan. One could argue a wise plan with some not so wise decisions. And he takes a small vacation, sticks to his word, starts looking for a job, and just doesn't love any of the jobs, right? He has all this money. He's like, I don't need to do that because I got lots of money and that sounds like it sucks. And that's his answer for every job he comes across for the next year. And then soon he's out of money. He's in, you know, he's got lots of bills because he didn't think about rent, you know. He still lives in the same apartment. He still has that super fancy car. He's got to pay for insurance on that car, you know. And now he doesn't have a job. That is arguably an unwise decision, but you see that level of thinking, that type of thinking in everyday people. And it's not because they're dumb or they're unwise. It's just that they don't think about how to optimize the tool that they currently have in their hand. They get a new tool, which is a bunch of money, and they get excited. They want to use it. They want to spend it. They want to do something cool with it. And that's all they think about. And that's not a bad thought, but it has to be tempered with, is this going to hurt me in the future?
It's kind of like how they say that people who have like won the lottery in like almost every case 20 years later, they're like the same spot that they were.
Or in a worse spot.
Yeah.
It's a lot like that.
Yeah, because it's like in the analogy that you were using, I was kind of thinking a lot of people would say get the like the super expensive car and a house that's, you know, like the other 500,000. So then they're at a net zero, really, and then not realizing all those expenses that go with those two things that they purchased.
Yeah. And you know, people can do that and still live a wise life. They just have to do it properly, right? And when I say properly, that's not something that I'm trying to go, you have to do it the way I'm thinking. It's about, you want a fancy car? Well, make sure you could afford it. Not afford it right now. Make sure you could afford it in 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you buy your fancy car, You make sure you can afford all the maintenance on it. Make sure you can afford the insurance on it, and make sure that you have a plan to replace the income of the temporary $1 million the government gave you, right? They said it's a one-time deal. It'll never happen again. So you have to have a job, right? And so if you spend all that money on a real nice car and a real nice house, as long as you maintain, your job that can keep up with the bills you're generating through these two items, then I say that's a wise decision. It's not a decision I would do, but it's still wise because you're not hurting your future self.
Okay, so the wisdom with money would be what, like, if you're hurting or helping your future self.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I would add in as well, also the effect that it has on also your future posterity and the future of the earth and the future, like we're reading the Lorax a ton with our kid right now.
He loves that book.
And really, it's so simple. Like if they had just introduced a couple of sustainable measures to these truffle trees, like let's plant 5 trees for everyone that we cut down, or I don't know, something like that. It's like it would change the story. Well, and like I guess I would add the thing to be careful of with oops, thing to be careful of with money is that it's just as easy or easier. It's easier probably to become a slave to it as to become a master of it.
I say it's easier to become a slave to it because of how our society labels the tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like our current society makes it seem like the only option is to use the tool, but it's like that's not exactly true either, because it's like people can go back to bartering if they want to, and they can go, it's like there's always more options. And sometimes, yeah, that's, I think that's my biggest thing, is just like that's what makes me sad, that so many people are stuck as a slave to it, or a slave. Yeah, I would say a slave to it. It's like they're a slave to their job. They're a slave, and it's like, to me, happiness is more what it's about, and freedom seems like it's kind of like it's not needed for happiness. Like the people that were in Auschwitz could find amounts of happiness there, but it's like, to like with freedom, happiness I feel like grows so much, like exponentially. And so it's like you can have happiness being a slave to money, and that slavery looks like you never have free time. You can't, like, you just don't have enough freedom to really take care of yourself, like physically or mentally or emotionally. Like you're just, like, all your energy is going to things that don't really matter. And so anyways, yeah, it's like it's like, I think what I'm trying to say is just, yeah, for my posterity, it's like my biggest thing with money is like, yeah, don't become a slave to it. And that could mean
You, 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 you. Sorry.
Yeah, and maybe you don't know that you're going to become a slave to it until you accidentally do it. I don't know. Like maybe that's one of those experiential things that sometimes people have to live through a little bit. I don't know. But it's like I would hope that yeah, that that's the type of wisdom that it's you like the amount of money you do choose to interact with helps to increase freedom in that way. Like for yourself, for others, for the world. Yeah. Because it's like money isn't something that exists really in the animal kingdom, like the rest of the animal kingdom.
There was a study done in a zoo. Not, I don't remember which zoo, but they introduced monkeys in or money to their monkey. I think they were apes. I think they were chimpanzees. So they introduced the concept of money into these chimpanzees. I'll probably have to find the study for it. And they introduced it in the sense of, you know, I think they used bananas. I really have to find it. But they were like, the bananas, you only get bananas. And then if you want something else, you have to trade for it, right? You got to give me 3 bananas if you want an apple or something. And so they started playing around with it. And the chimpanzees would evolve it to fit their own need. And they would do things like sell sex for more bananas to get what they wanted to. They would steal bananas from other monkeys and stuff like that. And so they would start mimicking human behavior a little bit. And so I do think money has,
It's like its own energy. It's not necessarily like a human creation.
well, I wouldn't say, I don't think tools in themselves have their own energy.
Okay.
But tools, the more useful a tool, the more energy it has the ability to release within an individual. And I think that plays out into a big role, especially in something like this, where it's like you can sit there and observe them, you know what their normal behavior is, and suddenly they start
doing weird things.
Yeah, you're like, well, I didn't know you would even make that correlation. Like, huh. Interesting.
Thank you so much for listening in on our conversation. We hope that our discussion on money as a tool will inspire you to think of your New Year's goals as tools that can help you consciously and actively shape your future. If you got something out of our chat or you'd like to deepen the discussion, please comment below. Or better yet, we're creating a community on our ministry's website called the High Vibe Tribe. Also, the clips you got here aren't even half of the conversation that we had on money today. So if you'd love to listen to the whole thing, please join us on the High Vibe Tribe. We'd love to see you there for conversations and other offerings we're building with yoga, meditation, book clubs, and more. The links are in the show notes below, and we hope you have a wonderful new year.